Hey, Angela, how you doing?
Hello, hello.
What's the good
Greetings
word?
from the future, as I like to say. It's 5 o'clock p.m. here. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, and that place is right here in the UK. So feel free to raise a glass if you've got one handy.
I got a mug here, and it just has water. So I'm still on. I'm on New York time, so we still have ways to go. I don't know
No worries.
where's Eli? I'm trying to see. Like, can't she find the room? How you doing, Travis, Ashwin, Anna, Linda? How you doing? There's Eli.
There she is.
What's the good word, Eli? Did you not find the room? No audio. No audio, Eli. No audio. Can't hear you. Gotta hit that plug. Gotta change that interface input. All right. As we go into the countdown, you can try it, but we can't hear you. I can see you. How you doing? Welcome to the Music News Power Hour on the Music Industry City Network. And today we are going to talk about a nightclub in a football end zone. Sounds like a party to me. Sony's Global Social Justice Fund and TikTok and YouTube's are battling out their short formats, and mental health in the music biz, local Radio Freedom Act, plus your daily Spotify update. It is a wonderful Wednesday, and I would normally just welcome one of my co-hosts, Eli Window, but she has left the room. I can see her. There she is. She is back. Let's see if she has audio. And Angela.
Yay.
All right. Hey, there is Eli.
Oh, thank goodness! I thought I was going to have to do all of the birthdays and oh man,
This day
Eli.
in history.
Well, we'll talk about it later, but I was trying to use Club Deck.
And that didn't work out for you.
Well, the crazy thing was I was not able to unmute my own microphone for some reason. There was some kind of a glitch and I couldn't unmute my mic, but I'm back now on the phone.
All right.
Ghost in the machine for sure.
Exactly. Hey, Eli, you want to kick it off with this day in history?
Absolutely. There we go. That's what I get for switching platforms as we start the broadcast. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Let's go ahead and get started. This day in history, we remember American singer and TV presenter Perry Como, who died aged 88 on this date, 2001. Birthdays today from 1928, American composer, songwriter, record producer, pianist, and singer Burt Bacharach. Happy birthday today from 1928. Also born this day, 1948, English musician Steve Winwood. Born this day, 1950, American rock musician Billy Squier. And born this day, 1976, Matt Mangiano, American musician with the Grammy Award-winning country group Zac Brown Band. Happy birthday. This day in history, 1975, Jefferson Starship gave a free concert in New York Central Park in front of 60,000 fans. The band and concert sponsor, WNEWFM, they were forced to pay a $14,000 cleanup fee and for damages done to the park after the event. Sounds like quite an event. On this day, 1977, after being dropped by both EMI and A&M Records in less than 6 months, Virgin Records announced they had signed the Sex Pistols. On this date, May 12, 1981, Meatloaf filed for bankruptcy with debts of over $1 million US. The singer stated, "I made almost nothing. That's how it was back then. The record company said, Bat Out of Hell never made a profit." On this day, 2008, singer-songwriter Neil Young had a spider named after him. U.S. University biologist Jason Bond discovered a new species of trapdoor spider and decided to name it after his favorite musician. This spider was founded in Jefferson County, Alabama, 2007. And on this date in 2013, thieves stole more than $1 million ran in takings. This was a total of about 70,000 British pounds in takings. This was after a Justin Bieber concert at Johannesburg's Soccer City Stadium. The gang of thugs, armed with ropes, hammers, and chisels, broke into a strong room where the takings from the Bieber concert and the gigs from the previous evening, that was a Bon Jovi show, all the takings were there, and the thugs broke in for the loot. That was on this day, 2013. And that wraps it up for this day in history. Back over to you, Peter.
Right on. Hey, so what was the name of the spider? What was the classification of that spider named?
Well, if anyone here can pronounce it, I invite them to try, but I'm not sure that I can. It's a mouthful. It's a mouthful. Lots of consonants.
I added that just so to see if you would read it.
You did that. You got me.
Yes, I did that one on purpose.
And you see what I did there.
Exactly. I was like, wait a second, she didn't say it. All right. So thanks for everybody. Thank you, Eli. And so everybody, welcome. And this is where we scour the World Wide Web for music news that we think should be open up for discussion. When we're going to get into the news reads in just a second. But feel free to raise your hand at any time if you want to come on stage, because you can. We want to hear what your thoughts are, kind of like a little water bubbler talk, or just like hanging out saying like, hey, listen, that article, here I've some thoughts on it. We talk about it a little bit, and then on the back half we have an industry roundtable where you can join the stage, and if there's something that we missed and you say, hey, this is really important to talk about, let's talk about it. And also want to just say hi to everybody. I say, hey, Don, what's up? How you doing there over in Twitch land? So again, if there's anybody on the checking on the live streaming platforms, just feel free to ask some questions. And if you want to play along at home and follow all the show notes and the articles that we cover, they are listed every day. We add all the articles into our show notes, and you can go to musicindustrycity.com and click on the graphic that says show notes, and I'll take you to the list of all the articles. And then we add that, we keep adding them until we get to Friday, where we have a few new articles, and then we go ahead and have the week in review. So with that being said, let's get to the news. Right, and this one starts off in Billboard. I thought this was fun. Wynn Resorts puts a nightclub in the end zone at Las Vegas Allegiant Stadium. And what they start off here is, are you ready for some bottle service with your football? Gone are the days when a skybox or suite are considered the best seats at a stadium game or concert. When the new Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas officially opens this summer, arguably the most coveted vantage point will be from the party happening at field level. A first in stadium entertainment, Wynn Resorts is partnering with the Las Vegas Raiders to create Wynn Field Club, which spans the entire length of the north end zone and brings the vibe of the city's nightclub scene to a unique environment. Just imagine Wynn nightlife talent like the Chainsmokers, Diplo, Shaquille, or DJ Diesel plucked straight from the XS and Encore Beach Club performing at halftime or pre-post event festivities for around 700 people enjoying bottle service as they would in a club. DJs can also be on display to perform for 65,000 fans in the stadium. Headliners have yet to be announced, although it's confirmed that WFC will host its first event July 10th as Garth Brooks christens the fully enclosed and climate-controlled stadium, which they completed in 2020, but yet to host a full-capacity event. I got a kick out of this when they say they'll have a private entrance and dedicated VIP host. When inside at least one of the 29 booths or 18 dining tables, expect tiered shellfish towers, pirate ship sushi boats, 40-ounce bone-in tomahawk steaks, giant pretzels, chicken tenders, and even Raider Nation silver and black nachos. And there'll just be elaborate theme bottle parades with confetti. So this, it's kind of fun. I got a kick out of this one. I would, think about going to a pre-party, though, to a football game. Everybody's going to get hammered before the game even starts. I don't know if this is a good thing.
We got married in Vegas, Peter. If you want, for Music Industry City next year will be our 10th anniversary. My husband and I can go renew our vows at the stadium, and we can get the pirate ship and Elvis and the DJs and even Garth Brooks if he fancies coming, and we can broadcast it across all of the Music Industry City network if you like.
The anniversary will be live streamed. I'm down for that. I haven't been to Vegas in about 3 years now, so I need a good trip out there.
A streamiversary.
There we go. Nice.
Oh, I love it.
Right on. And again, if you want to join in the conversation as we go through the articles, feel free to raise your hand. And also, Angela and Eli, if you see somebody, if we didn't invite you, just raise your hand. We just might not have seen you come in because we're probably reading something. So this one is from Platform and Stream at Medium.com. Loom, L-U-M, announces launch of $25,000 independent artist competition called Coast to Coast. Loom is the social media community and artist discovery app with over 150,000 independent artists, has announced the launch of one of its largest online music competitions of 2021 called Coast to Coast. Alongside the title sponsor Soundcore, Coast to Coast is a bracket-style elimination competition that will feature 4 regions, 32 cities, and 160 artists competing to determine which local music scene has the hottest independent artists. Only one city will take home the $25,000 grand prize and the bragging rights of being the hub for the best emerging music. Loom announced that Coast to Coast will be championed by 4 of the music industry's rising stars, Dax, Callboy, Justina Valentine, and Dream Doll. Each of these artists will captain one of the 4 regions and help promote the cities located within their regions. The competition will feature up to $50,000 in prizes, with the artists from the winning city claiming $25,000 after the final round of voting. So this started just the other day and it's continuing to May 24th. Independent artists from around the U.S., across the U.S., can apply to participate in the competition and representing their city. So it goes on. It's, is anybody familiar with Loom? It's an interesting social platform for music discovery. Has anybody had any experience? And that's why I brought this to the table, because, with all the plethora of music streaming services out there and discovery platforms, I saw this one. I actually thought it was kind of interesting. I downloaded it and, it has a ways to go naturally, but I was wondering if anybody had some experience with it or is even aware of it.
What's it called again?
Loom, L-U-M. It has like the umlauts
L-U-M.
above it. Yeah.
I've heard of it, but I'm not from. Yeah, I've heard of it, but I'm not familiar with it. I actually had a colleague on Clubhouse recommend it for discovering new artists.
Mm-hmm.
I looked it up online, and its seed company is Crunchbase. So I'm wondering if it didn't start as some kind of aggregator, or from a blog network, and then became eventually for new music discovery.
Yeah, it's just this is why I brought it up. Is like, I saw it and I thought this was kind of interesting, so I just wanted to put it out there. And if anybody goes in and checks it out and hears more about it, feel free to come back into the newsroom and just raise your hand and be like, hey, you remember when you're talking about Loom? I got some updates, or I checked it out, and give us some feedback about it. So moving on, we are going to talk about Sony, and this is in Variety.com. Sony Music will donate to 90 new organizations from its Global Social Justice Fund. Just under a year ago, as protests gripped the U.S. and the music industry took a blackout Tuesday to examine its policies and attitudes towards race, Sony Music Group announced the launch of a $100 million Global Social Justice Fund to support social justice and anti-racist initiatives around the world. The company, which includes all of its recorded music and content divisions and music publishing company, undertook a campaign to, quote, donate to organizations that foster equal rights. On Monday morning, Sony Music Group announced its 3rd round of donations to more than 90 new international, national, and regional community organizations. The recipients will be listed on Sony's website. And for more information on the company's corporate giving activities, there is a link in the article. And according to the announcement, the recipients funded in this round include community partners that help advance nonpartisan solutions in the areas of civic engineering, criminal justice reform, educational program, and youth advocacy. Organizations will impact communities across the African continent, Australia, Canada, and Latin American region, New Zealand, UK, and all of the U.S. All Global Social Justice Fund beneficiaries are chosen by a diverse global advisory committee representing divisions across Sony Music Group. As this is really nice to see, and this is something we should be more aware of, and hopefully more companies will follow suit. Right, no, so this one, let's move on to some good news in the live music sector. This is also in Variety. And the Hollywood Bowl announces summer season with Christina Aguilera, her, Cynthia Erivo, Black Panther, and more. The schedule includes John Williams, Brittany Howard, and they go on and list, along with 14 Dudamel conducted shows. Attendance will initially be capped at 2/3 of the capacity. This is a very detailed article for just kind of making some announcements. So I'm not going to read all of it, of course. You can go find, if you want to dive in more, you can find the articles and all the headlines that we cover at musicindustrycity.com and click on the show notes graphic, and that'll take you to the document. All right. So now the Los Angeles Philharmonic Association has announced the summer schedule for the Hollywood Bowl. It represents a robust, if slightly scaled down, return to near normal. More than 50 performances have been scheduled for a season that will get underway just a little later than usual on July 3rd and run through September 28th. The LA Phil tells Variety that current COVID protocols calls for the show will be sold at 2/3 capacity for the initial concerts in July, with the possibility of selling more if conditions and country color codes change. They said a rep's, quote, 67% of the house will be open in July with the current protocols that are in place, which is approximately 11,000 tickets. If protocols change, those numbers will change. It goes on. What's quickly evident from a look at the schedule is that there are fewer standard shows by major pop superstars, few, if any, of whom are expected to be out on tour yet in July, but about the usual number of concerts in which stars will be joining either the LA Phil or the Hollywood Bowl Orchestra for the evening. Film score-based programs and live soundtracks for film soundtracks will again be a significant part of the mix, along with shows featuring the Philharmonic itself as a headliner, of course. So they list some of the other shows, and the bowl is being described as a, quote, a majority vaccinated venue for the summer, with exceptions allowed in, quote, 2 sections reserved for non-vaccinated audience members with proof of a negative COVID-19 test taken within 72 hours prior to attendance. Mask wearing will be required for all attendees. The bowl statement added that the venue will continue to receive public health guidelines from Los Angeles County and that protocols could change as policies evolve over the summer. So it goes on, but what I really found interesting in this was that the statement I just read is that we hear about the possibility of, like, if you want to attend a venue, you have to show your COVID vaccine card, or if there's going to be an app. I mean, there's controversy around all of that. But this one here, they're saying 2 sections reserved for non-vaccinated audience members with proof of a negative COVID test taken within 72 hours prior to attendance. I thought that stuck out a little bit as, like, hey, we don't want to just shut the doors, be gatekeepers, and we're following these protocols, because it could be based on these tests that we have seen from Barcelona. And we're still waiting those results from the UK, the Liverpool concerts.
I think it's interesting that it's not an exclusive policy designed to exclude non-vaccinated attendees, but I do think it's interesting that the sections reserved for non-vaccinated attendees is capped at 2 sections, and so it sounds like those are extremely limited, those seats for non-vaccinated attendees.
It sounds a little to me like it's a recognition of the fact that, hey, not everyone's going to get vaccinated, and we can't abandon that market.
And also, too, we've heard a lot about vaccination cards being counterfeited and faked. And I think that if the, just a personal observation, I believe that if all events become completely exclusive to vaccinated folks, then we're going to see not an incentive, but certainly a motivation for folks to fake their vaccine card just so that they can participate, if indeed they do have to show one to participate in events like this. So this is a really interesting policy.
I agree. My wife, who works at Google, was asked yesterday if Google is going to be requiring vaccinations for people to go back into the office, and they're not. Airlines aren't requiring them, but some destinations are. If you want to go to Europe, you have to show proof of vaccination. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and like flying, it's not like they're going to have, I can't see them having a non-vaccinated section in a plane. Like, all right, smokers, you go into the back, because we saw that didn't work. Like the smoking section in the back of a plane. Yeah, it's a plane. It's a giant Tylenol capsule. So therefore, it doesn't work.
It's like trying to have a shoes off section of the plane without offending the whole plane. It's not going to work.
Although if they want to put vaccinated people in first class only, I am fully on board for that.
All right. Yes, we'll do that.
Amen to that.
Yeah, I'll take that. Is that a Ryanair proposal?
Oh God, Ryanair, they'd charge you for proving that you're vaccinated.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, more news from the Newport Folk Festival announces 2021 tickets are on sale and details two-part event. So the legendary event will take place over 2 weekends in July. After taking last year off like every other major event around the world. Tickets, the long-running cultural cornerstone is set to take place over 2 consecutive 3-day weekends scheduled for July 23rd to the 25th and July 26th to the 28th, each of which will feature a unique lineup. Tickets for the Newport Folk historically sell out well before a single artist is even announced, and even split across 2 separate festivals. That's likely to happen again. Each 3-day event will be held at 50%, that's 50% capacity reduction, essentially meaning the same number of tickets will be sold overall. Only Fort Adams State Park will be half as full during the shows. The 3-day passes will be available for each separate event, though the usual children's tickets won't be available. Kids under 2 will be admitted free, while a 3-day pass is set at $230 plus fees. And tickets will be available beginning Tuesday, May 18th at 11 a.m. Eastern via Eventbrite. And once more, is that the fort's layout itself has been reconfigured for the unprecedented post-pandemic version of the festival. Instead of the usual 3 stages, there will be 2 main stages with occasional scheduling overlaps. There will also be a number of smaller stages featuring intimate pop-up performances, the types of Newport shows typically relegated to the museum and kids stages. As always, the festival promises, quote, surprise guests and never-before-seen collaborations. Lineup is yet to be announced, but you can follow along there. And
have you been, Peter?
I was there many, many years ago. I love Newport. Who was that anyway?
That was Mr. Broccoli in the bottom.
Oh, Benjamin, how about yourself?
That was actually one of the very few festivals I actually know nothing about.
Oh, right on. Yeah,
I've never been.
But
I heard lots of great things over the years about it. Never known nothing and never been.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of the cultural mainstays up there. So it's always a wonderful. I can't say always a wonderful, but but people go to it. So hey, I want to point out something here for everybody that is missing out on the live stream. Eli, who's that little puppy in the window?
This is Sir Duke the Boxer. He is on Instagram, Sir Duke Boxer, but he's quite a social media star, and he wanted to talk on the mic. So for those of you watching us on stream, you can see Sir Duke the Boxer on my microphone. Hey, buddy.
All right, on. Hey, Sir Duke. Hey, while we're at it, could you also give us a update on the weather?
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather. If it is raining where you are, and of course we do have streamers joining us all around the World Wide Web, thank you so much for checking us out around the globe. If it is indeed raining where you are, at least it's not raining men.
Right on. All right, so let's get back into the news. This one, because May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we have been putting articles in the resources in our show notes. So if there's, we have resources, and I know Billboard posted an article about numerous resources. We put that into the show notes resource, which you can find at musicindustrycity.com. Click on the show notes graphic. So you'll get all the articles that we're covering plus resources. This one is from Complete Music Update. It talks about Mind launches new mental health guides of the music sector. Mental health charity Mind is marking Mental Health Awareness Week by launching a new series of resources specifically aimed at people working in music, and in particular the electronic music industry, created in partnership with music companies including Ninja Tune, Paradigm, Percolate and Poly, there are specific guides for organizations, managers, employees, and freelancers, which together provide, quote, vital information on how those working within the dance music industry can access support, look after their mental health, and support colleagues. The guides also include specific advice for those affected by the ongoing COVID pandemic. Explain the motivation for the project. The charity says, quote, according to research into mental health and well-being of people in the electronic music industry carried out in 2019, before the coronavirus pandemic, musicians are more prone to mental health problems than the general population and maybe up to 3 times more likely to suffer from depression, making this a timely and vital resource. Anecdotally, it says, Mind often hears from those working within the music industry how factors such as insecure income, difficulty achieving a work-life balance, pressure from fans and labels, poor diet, lack of sleep, and access to alcohol and drugs can all take their toll on well-being and mental health. And launching the resources, Mind's Emma Mamo says, we know that working in the music industry can be very rewarding and offers many opportunities. However, it comes with a unique set of challenges, all of which may have an effect on people's mental health and well-being. Coronavirus restrictions, Brexit, and the fluctuating income have only made existing problems in the industry worse. So it's important that people across the industry can access vital support if and when is needed. And it goes into a little more detail. And alongside the new online resources, Mind is also staging a panel discussion June 15th. Joe Hastings from Help Musicians and Sally Ann Gross and Dr. George Musgrave from the University of Westminster, who co-authored the report, Can Music Make You Sick? Music and Depression. And in this article, you can access, it has a link to access all the resources there.
Yeah, for those in the UK, Mind is a very well-known mental health charity, and often the one most often mentioned when people are doing charitable runs or appearing on TV. It's very active, and people know that's an excellent resource. I found when reading this article that Kira Santiago from Ninja Tune said something that really resonated with me. She said, quote, "No 2 days are ever the same in the music industry. With such a huge diversity of roles, responsibilities, and relationships, everyone's well-being can be affected in so many different ways." And then she goes on to talk about how this last year has just multiplied that exponentially, and that definitely hit home for me, because I know that if you're wearing a lot of hats, especially if you're an artist, an independent artist acting as your own advocate or doing your own marketing or doing your own social media, combining that with having to be creative and having to produce your own music, it can be so incredibly daunting, especially when you're not even given that payoff of being able to perform your music and share it with others and watch other people enjoying it. That's an element we've all been robbed of, obviously. But for artists, it's just that much more complicated. And their resources, I've looked at the guides. They're very robust. They're easy to read and worth sharing. So even if you're not based in the UK, there could be some valuable information there that would be of help if you're based anywhere.
Right on. Yeah. And again, in our show notes, we have a resources list. So the show notes are at musicindustrycity.com. Click on the show notes graphic, and that you can find there's a lot also in the US as well. And Billboard had posted an article that had about 10 resources, so you can check that out. I do have just a few more topics. We're going to cover some about this Local Radio Freedom Act, and then we're going to talk about NFTs for a little bit, very little, because I think everyone is getting rich off of them. Think again. We're going to talk about TikTok repulling the Facebook and YouTube and TikTok. We're talking about shorts there. And then we have a few other things, and of course our Spotify update. But let's get into this one. I'm not going to get very deep in here because we have back-to-back articles, but it is something that it really affects the U.S. And when we talk about radio and things like that, it's Tampa. This article starts off Tampa Representative Kathy Castor's support of Local Radio Freedom Act robs performers of royalties, says the critics. In the 2020 cycle, iHeartRadio and the National Association of Broadcasters donated $10,000 each to Castor. All right, so her perennial support of the Local Radio Freedom Act has once again drawn the ire of performers and music industry groups. Castor represents the 14th district, covering much of Tampa. She's being criticized for introducing legislation that would protect radio conglomerates like iHeartMedia, Cox, and Beasley, which combined make up roughly 85% of local radio stations in Tampa Bay, from paying, quote, new performance fees or taxes to performers whose music gets played on broadcast radio. In a letter to Castor, Jorge Brea, CEO of Tampa-based Symphonic Distribution, wrote that, quote, in 2019 alone, radio sold $17 billion worth of ads, yet they did not pay a cent to performers for the use of their recordings. According to Brea, that's because legislators have continually denied performers that right. But as a result, your constituents who support their families playing music are suffering more than they should during the pandemic. Broadcasters refuse to play by the same rules that apply to SiriusXM, Pandora, Apple Music, and Spotify, all of whom pay recording artists for the use of their work. Publishers and artists are currently compensated by streaming services like Spotify, but royalties are trickier when it comes to radio since airplay is considered a public performance. Public performance royalties are collected by a performing rights organization, or PRO, on behalf of songwriters. But in the U.S., FM and AM terrestrial stations only pay the songwriters via previous agreements with their PRO groups. Performers and sound recording copyright owners are not paid by the terrestrial broadcasters. So a rudimentary example is Baby One More Time by Britney Spears, which was written exclusively by Max Martin. Spears receives zero royalties every time that song was played on the radio in the late 90s, but Martin does. But not every performer is Britney Spears, who could arguably afford to surrender radio play royalties thanks to her many other lucrative touring and marketing deals. I'm going to stop there because I want to get onto the other article, and I just want to back up. But like that last statement is like, but not every, just because she can arguably afford to give up these royalty payments from the radio. No, that's not how we should be thinking. Okay.
Right. Who decided that she could afford to give that up, and can she really? And whose decision? I don't know. That seems like a very strange statement that she could afford. That's not how we decide who gets paid and why.
How many artists in the 70s and 80s that have hits that are still playing on the radio that are near bankrupt or just barely making a living based on their music catalog from years past? So
you had me fuming at Florida legislator defends Cox and what was it Comcast? Like she's literally saddling up with the bad guys. I'm like, I don't even need to hear the rest of the story. I know this is bad news bears.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to tie this in, and again, feel free to check out the articles in our show notes at musicindustrycity.com, show notes graphic. This one is from Music First Coalition, and this is the open letter. It was a memo. A national poll puts big radio on notice ahead of NAB congressional fly-in. So this came out 4 days after the prior article. As the NAB arrives in Washington for their annual congressional fly-in, a new national poll commissioned by Music First, the voice for fairness and equity in how music creators get paid, showed that American public isn't buying many of the outdated myths that big radio will attempt to sell to lawmakers in the days ahead. The poll comes from the heels of the reintroduce of the so-called Local Radio Freedom Act, which we just discussed. And they say as a cleverly worded and seemingly innocuous resolution that actually prevents creators from being paid when traditional radio plays their music. This NAB-crafted policy resolution purposely misleads lawmakers through false claims about local radio and how artists are discovered. And so it goes on and saying that the LFRFA was previously introduced in the 116th Congress. It had 118 initial co-sponsors in the House. However, when the resolution was reintroduced last week, that number had dwindled to just 77. So that's good news in that sense. And it's not just lawmakers. While most Americans are currently unaware of the ongoing injustices in artist pay perpetuated by the NAB, the new survey reveals that once they are informed of the status quo, a majority agree that artists should be paid when their music is played on FM AM radio, and respondents want Congress to side with the artists over broadcasters in this fight by a nearly 20-point margin. All right, so this goes on even more, and they talk about, after, big radio using billion-dollar megaphone to mislead the public on this important issue. Of course, it's going to be, you're going to have this kind of verbalized, document here. But by saying this survey reveals that 6 out of 10 Americans did not know that artists don't get paid when their music is played on traditional radio, indicating that the NAB has largely been successful in their efforts to date to hide the realities of artist pay. By contrast, nearly the exact same number, 57%, reported that they did know artists received payments when their music was played on streaming services like Spotify and Sirius. So, and it goes on much deeper here. And, 52% of Americans believe it's unfair that artists are not paid when their music is played on traditional radio. compared to 27% who say the opposite. All right, so yeah, it goes on much, much more in detail. If you are, you follow this and interested, please check out what's going on at the Music First Coalition and keep an eye out on this article. I mean, a couple of other things to add in here. When the prior article is talking about, the others have to Pandora. I remember Pandora years ago was trying to buy a radio station so they could get out of the consent decree. They can declare that, and because Pandora's also was one of the issues with, challenges with Pandora is they were strapped with so much in payouts, so basically 67 to 72% of their revenue was going to licensing, was going to royalty payouts. So how do you grow a company? We want these companies to succeed, but we also want them to pay. The other is, going way back, this whole radio thing is, it's been a challenge from the start, going back to the 20s, when even record labels, when music started being played, record labels were forcing their artists to sign a contract saying you will not allow radio to play your music. These are things that, labels were doing because they didn't understand the power of radio. And then they realized, oh, there's promotion elements. But then again, at that point, they weren't getting paid. The labels weren't getting paid, but the songwriters were getting paid. This is 100 years.
Unbelievable.
All right. And more about thinking.
Well, one quick thing too, the radio industry did to me, a humorous, funny, stupid thing a few years ago when all this started about artists wanting to be paid, rightly so, for radio airplay. They called it a radio tax. So the public was like, well, we don't need any more taxes. I'm done.
Wow.
I could spend an hour or more just telling you about how radio works over here in the UK. That would blow minds. It's a lot more streamlined. We don't have this stuff, and you get paid quite a bit more. But there are all sorts of other issues that are in line. So if anybody's interested, message me and I'll walk you through.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Here's another thing. And this puts what kind of company we want the United States to be associated with. And there are only 5 countries that radio does not pay for the artists, the performers. And that is the United States, China, Iran, North Korea, and Rwanda. Those are the only countries that do not pay recording artists and their labels when the songs are played on the radio.
Hey, I have a quick question regarding that right there too. Does anybody in the room know, because it used to be, because the US did not have a reciprocal agreement with licensing around the world, that when artists do get paid, like in the UK, for radio airplay, but they're US based, the UK doesn't pay the US artist because the US doesn't pay a UK artist. Is that still a thing?
As far as my understanding with this, and my friend Aaron Casey, who actually does this for a living here in the UK, I urge you to look him up on Clubhouse. He's always doing talks on this. There's a radio room that meets, I believe it's Thursday nights at 8:30 UK time, which is in about 2 hours from now, but on Thursday nights, which would be tomorrow. So you can do the math based on where you are about what time that would be for you, where some radio professionals talk and you can ask them loads of questions. He often pops in there. My understanding is that if you're a UK artist and you're trying to gain traction in the US, you can actually register yourself with US PROs, because then you'll have the access to getting paid in the US, in the locales where you get paid. Obviously not radio in this case, but if that's where you're generally going to be, marketing your music. The same goes in reverse though. So if you're a US based or an artist based outside of the UK and you want to register here, you register with the UK PROs, which are PRS, PPL, and MCPS, which handles obviously the digital, the mechanicals, and the performance rights. So I believe that it's done separately. In other words, the PROs in the US won't pay based on that, and vice versa. But you can register yourself with UK-based PROs if you're going to be marketing your music here. So you can get paid by them if you get UK radio airplay.
Thank you.
Oh, Peter, I see you talking. There you go. There you are.
Did my that was some? Oh, I got to replace that mic cable. I guess it popped out again. All right, analog technology. So, one other thing is, actually, I'm gonna skip that because Angela, we're gonna follow up on this tomorrow, and we'll get to it because I do have just a few other articles left, and we want to get into the open forum and the roundtable. So if anybody else has, you want to jump on stage, if there's something you want to chime in about, and we're about to go to the roundtable. So if there's something, an article that you want to talk about, or if there's something we missed and you want to bring it to the table, let's talk about it. So just raise your hand and bring you on up. All right, NFTs. All right, and this one is from ArtNet. And the question is, think everyone is getting rich off NFTs? Most sales are actually $200 or less, according to a report. A common refrain amid the ongoing market frenzy surrounding sales of art-related NFTs or non-fungible tokens have been that they are empowering artists otherwise shut out of the system. Many are jumping in, following Christie's record sale of Every Day's The First 5,000 Days, a $69 million NFT by the artist known as Beeple. The response from top artists was enthusiastic. The media is full of stories focusing on overnight successes, like Brooklyn sports painter Blake Jameson, who recently told CNBC, quote, "I firmly believe that I will be a millionaire in like 8 weeks just because I see the potential of the NFT stuff." Artist Kimberly Parker, for one, remained skeptical and decided to investigate for herself. In a recent in-depth blog post at Medium, she threw some cold water on the notion that the large numbers of artists are cashing in, and she's got the numbers to back up the assertion. So they really do go. There's some charts, some numbers that are in this, but she came up the average sale price suggested by most popular NFT sites is shockingly high. Parker writes several $1,000s. As of this writing, according to the rankings on OpenSea, the average price of an NFT sold on Super Rare is 2.15 Ether or $5,800. Now, that is at the time of this writing. The average price on Maker's Place is 0.87 Ether or $2,400. And the average on Foundation is 1.27 Ether or $3,500. If you don't know what we're talking about, Ether, it's not what you're going to knock yourself out with by inhaling. We're talking about Ethereum. And this is the reason I'm bringing this article is because a lot of talk about this and people are saying, oh, I'm going to put everything on an NFT. It's important to know what you're doing when there's minting, when there's gas prices, when you're exchanging, if you want to get Ether, then you have to open a wallet or an exchange, and you have to get all this. So I want everybody to kind of know what you're getting into. So even after the recent crash of NFT prices, nonfungible.com reports that the average price NFT prices overall were around $1,400 in April, down from $4,000 in mid-February. And they have like some screenshots here. As Park points out, this number is skewed by a handful of enormous sales. That's the outliers that are skewing up north. So if one artist sold an NFT for $1 million and 99 others sold the work for $1, the average would still be over $10,000. All right.
Do they report the media?
So we have but the data is not easy to come by. So they had to do this gold rush and everything of like finding all the numbers. And what they were saying is Parker chose on the primary sales would give a clear idea what the artist could expect selling their NFT for the first time. The analysts found that the largest number of primary sales, even during the frothy moment, were $100 or less. More than 50% of all recorded sales were under $200. So it's, definitely go into this, because you have to look at these prices and in like your artwork. So if your artwork is the more than 1 in 3 NFTs that are sold for $100 or less, follow along with this. Parker explains, quote, "You can expect to have 72.5% to 157.5% of your sale deducted by fees, depending on the platform. That's an average of 100.5%, leaving you with a 50-cent deficit." These are you're breaking down the fees collected by the platforms, the gas fees, the exchange fees, and everything else. So I wanted to bring this attention because, please, we talk about these booms. We talk about, you see what's going on, Dogecoin, you see what's going on with crypto. I'm all for all this, but please pay attention and research what you're getting into, because you have the potential to lose money when you think you're going to make money.
I think I understand that, Peter, but I just want to ask it in the form of a question in case anybody else's mind is mush after hearing all of that. What you're essentially saying is you can pay up to $2,000 just to get yourself into a position where you have currency available to buy and sell NFTs. And then when you actually go to sell one, chances are you could be paying 50 cents above what you already invested just to have the currency into selling the NFT. So even after you sell it, you won't have actually any profit. You'll actually be paying 50 cents to potentially sell your NFT. Did I get that right?
Yeah. And I mean, there's different platforms, and there are different, platforms that are saying no gas fees, and they will take a higher percentage. So like anything else, it's like, what do you want? Do you want more up front, or do you want to pay ahead, or the royalty rates? So it's really more of that thought piece of saying, really look into what the fine print is here, and understanding when you're transferring money, because if you have a wallet, it's like, oh, I can't buy Ether directly. Well, I have to buy Ether. What is going to be my charge? I mean, the other day I went to buy, I just wanted to put $100 in, and I was only going to get, I think it was $60 or $72 worth of Ether. And that wasn't even that was just the gas rate for them to process. And that wasn't even the exchange, because then I needed to move my Ether to buy, like, say, a different coin. I would have had to move my Ether over, and then that would have been an extra fees. So I would have been down to like $50 of Ether by the time I made it over to, I don't know, a SHIB coin or something, whatever they're talking about this week. So I just really wanted to get that out there, because just pay attention, please. And we're going to come in with
Eli, should we vote to have a Rick Astley moment quickly, just because? Is it 2-1?
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm in. That's up to Peter. He's the ringmaster here.
We only
play it, Peter. Play it.
I can't in this room. We're live streaming.
He can't. He's on Twitch. That's right.
Oh man, that's right.
Oh, that's right. Not on stream.
I can sing it if you want.
Oh, please don't. Please don't.
We'll get a takedown notice for that too.
We'll get a different kind of takedown notice. And with that being said, The Verge, TikTok is reported pulling a Facebook and adding in-app shopping. All right, and they are saying that starts out the platform is already sort of perfect for infomercials. TikTok's next move to compete with Facebook might be to add an in-app shopping feature, according to a new report from Bloomberg. The publication writes that TikTok is testing in-app sales in Europe by partnering with several brands, including UK-based streetwear company Hype. TikTok's made some shopping moves in the past, like giving creators the ability to sell merchandise through an integration with Teespring, partnering with Shopify, and reportedly working on some kind of live video infomercial product. The new prototype sounds more like how shopping's been integrated on Instagram, with a separate shopping tab under a brand's account that lists products with images and prices, Bloomberg writes. The Hype account page currently does show what it looks like in a shopping center, though it's blank for the U.S. account. So this is only over there in Europe. And the company did confirm to Bloomberg that it was participating in the test, and they've reached out to TikTok for further confirmation, and the shopping test is happening. So it's really interesting, so also more or less exactly what Facebook's doing on its way to do with Instagram, its TikTok competitor Reels, and the normal Facebook app itself. The company went on a slightly different kind of shopping spree in 2020, adding commerce functionality like the previously mentioned shopping tab, product information, Reels, and it hasn't stopped there. Facebook is also testing sticker ads in stories. And tying this in on the technology side is from TechCrunch. YouTube announces a $100 million fund to reward top YouTube Shorts creators over 2021-2022. YouTube is giving its TikTok competitor YouTube Shorts an injection of cash to help it better compete with rivals. The company introduced the YouTube Shorts Fund, a $100 million fund that will pay YouTube Shorts creators for their most viewed and most engaged content over the course of 2021 and 2022. Creators cannot apply for the fund to help with the content production. However, instead, YouTube will reach out to creators each month whose videos exceed certain milestones to reward them for their contributions. The company expects to dole out money to thousands of creators every month, it says, and these creators don't need to be in the YouTube Partner Program to qualify. Anyone is eligible to receive rewards by creating original content for YouTube Shorts. YouTube declined to share more specific details about the fund's operation at the time, including how creators will be vetted or what specific thresholds for receiving payments YouTube has in mind. It also wouldn't offer details as to whether YouTube creators could receive multiple payments in the same pay period if they had several videos that would qualify, or any other details. They stress that only original content would gain rewards, and goes on that instead, YouTube also said more details about the payments qualifications would be available closer to the fund's launch, with expected sometime in the next few months. It pointed out that it has paid out over $30 billion to creators, artists, and media companies over the last 3 years, and expects the new fund will help it to build a long-term monetization model for shorts and YouTube going forward. And so this is, not the only platform, and Snapchat has been paying $1 million per day to creators for their top-performing videos on Spotlight, its own TikTok clone, minting several millionaires in the process. Facebook owned Instagram, meanwhile, made lucrative offers to top TikTok stars to use its new service, Reels, and the Wall Street Journal reported last year. All right, so, and despite the size of his efforts, TikTok's own creator fund remains a competitive force and announced its fund would grow to over $1 billion in the U.S. in the next 3 years and would be more than double that on a global basis. This March, it also added another requirement to receiving the fund's payment, including having at least 100,000 authentic views in the last 30 days, a signal that it's setting the bar even higher given its current success. All right, so it goes on a little bit deeper. I know, Eli, you brought this one to my attention here. I've added it in. So what are your thoughts?
I just think it's really interesting the role that social media and social content is taking in the careers of artists now. And I think that social media content and social media news is definitely news that all musicians and artists should be paying attention to. Management and labels can't look at your box office receipts, your ticket sales, or your touring history right now, but they can look at your social media. So this is really interesting to me that social media is becoming such a hot commodity here. That's why I pulled this one in. I think it's relevant for all artists these days.
There's a lot of discussion, and you're going to see a lot more articles labeled with the title "Creators" in it. How to, helpful. It's the creator economy, things like that. I do have another article. I'm going to bring it to the table tomorrow that talks about it. And we did talk about one yesterday that is in the show notes as well, that there was the creator economy, the ultimate guide to the creator economy. And that is in the show notes. So you can pull that up, and it's really interesting. They have over 220 apps and platforms, and they could take you from creation, exposure to monetization. So this is kind of that creator economy. So I know we went a little long on the reads, but we also had some good interaction in between. So that's what it's all about. Let me Eli, we're going to go into your favorite section.
Here we go. The big green dot, it hits the spot. We are moving into the Spotify spot, which is the final portion of the headline segment of our show. We read out the headlines first here in Music News Power Hour, and then in the final moments of the show, we open up for a roundtable discussion. So if there's anything that we have covered today in our headline read that you'd like to discuss, please feel free to raise your hand, unmute your mic, type into the chat, and join the discussion with a topic that you think we need to discuss here, and bring it to our attention. If you are in the Clubhouse room and we haven't invited you to the stage yet, please do feel free to put your hands up, which means something completely different here than it does in the nightclub. Put your hand up, come to the stage, join the discussion. We're moving into our final few moments of headlines. Then we will open the roundtable discussion right here in the Music News Power Hour.
All right, and I'm going to power through this one really quick, and this is from Digital Music News. Turkey media regulator warns Spotify to eliminate inappropriate content. The Radio and Television Supreme Council, the leading media oversight body in Turkey, has ordered Spotify to remove, quote, inappropriate content or face potential censorship in the nation of over 82 million residents. Regional outlets, including Arab News Weekly, quickly picked up on the Radio and Television Supreme Council firmly worded warning to Spotify, which now must regulate its content with emphasis on the 2.6 million podcasts that the platform hosts presently. Worth mentioning here, as the RT UK in mid-October 2020 demanded that Spotify pay 3 months worth of licensing fees up front and within 72 hours, no less. The publicly traded audio entertainment service ultimately complied with the demand and shortly after received a decade-long license to operate in Turkey. And while this newest warning from RTUK therefore comes as something of a surprise, timing-wise, Arab News indicated that Spotify has, quote, gained a wide audience recently as one of the last remaining outlets for free speech in Turkey, especially with its podcast providing critical reporting and commentary on Turkish domestic politics. Building upon the latter point, the Saudi government has taken far-reaching steps of late develop and particularly live music sphere, including by investing $500 million in Live Nation of April 2020. The value of the stake, some 12.34 million shares, has since doubled, and evidence continues to discuss that the full-scale return of ground-based entertainment will soon arrive. It also bears noting that the podcasts appear unavailable to Spotify users in multiple Middle Eastern nations, according to complaints levied by fans, one of whom lamented that he cannot access Joe Rogan's recent sit-down with comedian Dave Chappelle. All right. At the time of its publication, podcasts, including the Joe Rogan Experience, was still live on Spotify Turkey, and the company higher-ups didn't seem to have publicly responded to the open-ended warning from the Radio and Television Supreme Council. And just as a side note, back in August of 2020, Apple Music made the work of Zara Larsson unavailable to users in China after the singer-songwriter criticized the Chinese government. Apple earned nearly $18 billion from consumers in Greater China during 2021's opening 3 months, according to the company's latest earnings report. So, and lastly, Spotify is officially investigating an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience over COVID misinformation concerns, though a controversial installment remains live. So, dealing with different territories, you got to be careful. You got to play by their rules, or maybe pay by their rules. And that's it for the reads. Ooh, a lot to read.
Oh my gosh, what a day. That's a lot to unpack. That's a lot to digest. Let's take a look at the folks in the Clubhouse room, and welcome to everyone viewing on the streams. And please feel free to chime in the chat. Any final thoughts? Greg, we've covered a lot today. Any final thoughts on anything that we've discussed?
No, I'm starting another meeting here at 3 minutes, trying to download a bunch of stuff. So sorry.
Okay.
I'm trying to listen.
We won't add too much audio to your mental downloading here. Benjamin, I saw your mic come off. Did you have something to add as we move into the final few moments here?
Has anyone used Clear yet?
Oh, for travel?
Or travel, or for arenas and stuff. It was popular at the Cleveland draft party. Well, do you think it will become bigger?
I've used it for travel, and it's great.
Yeah, they're talking about incorporating that for COVID, like for venues and live events.
Yeah, it works as advertised. It will, identify you by your iris or by your fingerprint, either or.
Right on.
Absolutely changing times. Remember when you used to have a paper ticket that you could buy from the scalper, and now you need your retina. Everything is changing. Julie, welcome to the stage. We have just a couple more minutes here left in the Music News Power Hour. Any final thoughts for us on the articles that we've covered today? Welcome to the stage.
Thank you. As far as the Clear thing, yes, I've used it. I've used it at an event. I've personally used it in the sense of the Health Pass scan. Works pretty well. The only downside to it is making sure that you have enough bandwidth so everybody can access it. And there's a bunch of, I think it's the NHL, MLB, they're all using it as well. I did want to bring up a super quick article. I'll be fast. I sent it to Peter, so if anybody wants to grab it from him, you have the opportunity to do that. It was an article from, Condé Nast, and it was a country by country reopening guide, which was kind of awesome. Ooh. I only got to skim through it because I literally just got it, but it goes through pretty much everything. I believe in alphabetical order of who's opening when and what the information is on the latest information on all of the reopenings are.
Oh, thanks for that. I just looked over at my messages and I see it. So how about I bring that to the table? I'll put it into the top half read tomorrow.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Julie. And for anybody who's listening, if there are articles that you would like to bring to the table, or if you'd like to revisit any of the articles that we have covered today in our Music News Power Hour, you can visit musicindustrycity.com, click on the show notes graphic, and you can read about all of the articles that we've covered today. Also, feel free anytime to send us an article like Julie has just done. If there's something that we need to make sure that we cover, either in today's Music News Power Hour or tomorrow's, please do send that in. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure sure that we're keeping current on all the music news that's important to all of us from around the globe and around the World Wide Web. This has been Music News Power Hour from the Music Industry City Broadcast Network. We are here 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern each weekday, Monday through Friday. We cover all the news that's fit to hear about and discuss right here. Please feel free to add articles to our read for tomorrow for the rest of the week. Every Friday, we do a week in review where we discuss all of the articles that we have covered throughout the week. And so if there's anything that we did not get to discuss today, please do bring it back up in our Friday week in review right here at the Music News Power Hour, 12 p.m. Eastern. My name is Eli Window, and on behalf of my co-host Peter Schwinge, I want to thank you so much for bringing articles to the table and discussion to us today. I hope you will join us again tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern, for Music News Power Hour, not just on Clubhouse for Android and iOS, but across multiple streaming platforms and around the world. Thanks so much for tuning in. Over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Eli, and thank you, everybody. Great conversation today. And again, yeah, you can hit me up in my DMs on Instagram, so click on my profile. And also, if you want to, you can also register at musicindustrycity.com for free. We always send out a schedule on Sundays, and tonight we're going to do another schedule, and that we're going to do a little networking. We might just open up the Metaverse City tonight, say like 8 o'clock Eastern. Like if you want to show up and just chat with each other and invite your friends, we're just going to totally make it informal. So if you're registered at musicindustrycity.com, you'll get that email. We'll probably send it about 6 o'clock. And also in the show notes, I do want to just mention one last thing. We did a great event last night for the New York City Mayor's Office Media and Entertainment. It was in partnership with them for their New York Music Month extended play. We did a live stream on the intersection of VR and music. And you can go to the show notes, which is on the website, musicindustrycity.com. Click on the show notes. It's right at the top because I wanted to make sure I was telling some people about it. You can watch the YouTube video. We didn't just talk about VR. We had Adrian, Rashad, Driscoll, and Young Guru, and Guru's Jay-Z's engineer, and they just formed a company. They did a VR event for Rhapsody, like a record release party, and then we showed the world they built. It's amazing. And we show people, we have interviews with people inside VR. So you're not just watching people speaking on the screen. You're watching the avatars. We have a camera crew that follows them around, and we can everybody's talking. So really check it out. I encourage you to check it out. It was an enlightening, amazing talk. We have one of the top DJs in virtual reality that works with Tribe. So if you go to the show notes and you click on that, you can get it's right at the top, the YouTube clip, or you can just go to Music Industry City on YouTube, and it'll be the one that says VR and music. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate you stopping by and all the helpful information and your thoughts and opinions. And Angela, thank you so much. Our co-host,
I also want to
UK
remind you, Peter,
correspondent.
quickly, because you didn't mention for all of our new Android users that are joining us, some of your party hats are disappearing, so it's hard to tell which ones are newbies and which ones aren't. If you want to click the little green house at the top next to Music Industry City, join the club, and then you'll be notified when we go live for the Music News Power Hour and other Music Industry City events.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And one more thing about that VR event. We did it for Angela. There's a Mario Kart section. Yes, in VR, there's a Mario Kart. Woo! And there's a DJ booth, and it's like an outdoor festival. People are in Mario Karts, and there's DJs. So thank you, everybody. Once again, see you tomorrow. We also do the morning show at 11 a.m. Eastern. Then we do the Music News Power Hour. Have a great day, everybody.